email. The reception has been spotty today, so.
Okay.
Terry, I appreciate that more than you know. Thank you so much.
Mr. Clerk, are you ready?
I am.
Okay. Thank you. With that said, then we will call the Erie County Board of Elections meeting to order. Mr. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Mrs. Clear? I saw her. Mr. Horton?
Hi,
Present.
Terry.
Mr. Rastetter?
Mrs.
come
Clear,
back to him.
go ahead if you're ready.
I'm sorry. I'm here.
Thank you. Mrs. Rennie?
Here.
Mrs. Showerman?
Here.
Mr. Shank?
Here.
Chairman Anderson?
Here. Board Member Rastetter is trying to sign on. You can maybe call him again. He may be ready.
He's muted.
I'm here.
There's Scott.
I finally made it. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Rastetter. Good to have you with us. And with that being said, with the roll call vote being complete, at this portion of the meeting, we will have a hearing of the public. Anybody wishes to be heard, please go ahead and raise your hand on the participant screen, or raise your hand if you're visibly on the Zoom, and I'll recognize you. And I think first, Freda Tepfer, would you like to begin?
Yeah, hi. Thank you for letting me address you. First of all, I want to congratulate everybody on that we survived the election. I was a poll watcher virtually the entire day, and I was an observer of the canvassing a good portion of 2 days. So I got to see plenty. And Tanya, as always, you and your people were just so patient and everything. I really appreciate that. I encountered when I was doing the poll watching that there were a lot more provisional ballots this year, as you know. And I think as the day wore on, the poll workers got more comfortable offering them to people, but it was a little kind of rugged in the beginning. And I ended up helping a lot of people find the status of their registration. It was unfortunate that because there were several polling places in my area that people were ending up in the wrong place, or sometimes on the wrong side of town. And one thing I didn't realize until partway through the day is you can only vote I believe this is that you're not supposed to vote a provisional ballot other than at your own polling place, which is kind of problematic if somebody's waited online a long time only to find out they're in the wrong place, and then they have to wait online all over again. So the other thing I want to say, because it looks like my friend was not able to join us, I have a friend who's visually impaired. She has a guide dog. I think some of you have seen her around town, and she's incredibly technologically astute. She teaches her own visually impaired customers how to use cell phones and all the stuff, and she knows how to do stuff. And she was so looking forward to her first real opportunity to vote privately and independently in this election. And I believe her polling place is Grover Cleveland, but I'm not sure. But she was so very disappointed that they did not have the accessible polling machine. It was there, but it wasn't functioning. And that shouldn't have happened. She should have, she waited to vote in person so that she could have that private, independent voting experience for the first time in her life. And she didn't get to have that. So whatever it is that happened, I hope it doesn't happen again, and that I know everything's kinks, but that was a major disappointment to her. Thank you again for a good job. Well done. And Doug Smith and everybody. I think everybody did a great job.
Ms. Tepper, thank you. We will certainly check into that for Shelley, and if she wants to call the voter registration office or Mr. Smith or myself, we'll try and track that down and look for ways to ensure that that does not happen ever again, and it doesn't happen certainly in the primary of next year. You know, those things were set up and should have been working, and I'm disappointed to hear if she did not have an opportunity for that experience. But these are the kind of things that we want the public to let us know. So if there are issues out there, we can correct them. So I thank you for that, and we'll follow up with her. I did want to mention about the provisional ballots that I think most people may be aware, some may not, that there was a period of time during the day, I think it was about 5:40 until about 7:10, where the power went out in certain areas, and backup generators were brought in, especially at the courthouse. And with our scanners, we have backup batteries on them. So they were working when the backups were put in place. However, the reason I bring all of that up is when something like that occurs, if somebody had called us and was looking for a place to vote by provisional ballot, we were letting them go wherever the closest place to their original polling place was, that they had access to and had the equipment to be able to vote. So yes, normally we would hope that people would vote the provisional ballot there, but there's always something that happens that there are exceptions made. And in this case, for that roughly 90-minute period, we did have some of those exceptions. So I did want to mention that as well to you, so you were aware of that.
I was surprised how many people ended up in the wrong place. And I mean, but there were, either because of, and even we had people though who had a piece of paper showing that they were supposed to be where they were, but the books didn't match. But anyway, it was just surprising how many people ended up in the wrong polling place.
Yeah, thank you for that. And next up, I see we have a hand raised for Mr. Jim Wirtz. Would you like to go next? And please go ahead.
Sure will. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to begin by thanking the Board of Elections, Doug Smith and his crew, and Tanya and her crew. Just a tremendous job all around. I think it was for what seemed to be becoming a chaotic election cycle with a lot of variables and a lot of unknowns. I'd like to thank the Board of Elections and all of the election staff for kind of rolling with those punches over the last couple of months and figuring out what the next steps were going to be, and by and large for having an answer for us every time we came to the table with a question, which I know was sometimes a lot of times coming to the table and sometimes coming to the table with a lot of questions, but you always seem to be able to meet that. I would echo Freda's comments that there were some what I would consider to be at this point minor issues throughout the day. We often come to the meeting after election to talk about some of those things, but we're going to put those in writing and waive them from this report, just for expediency and to have an opportunity maybe to talk about some of them line by line later on. Just recommendations for process or procedure at individual polling places where our poll watchers and volunteers noticed some things that could perhaps be better, either in the education of poll workers or just in the general workflow to move voters in and out more efficiently when we have these larger, more enthusiastic election cycles. So again, thank you all for your commitment and your work over the past few months, and for getting us to today without too much fanfare and with the quiet that should accompany an election vote and count.
Thank you, Mr. Wertz. And I will just mention to you that we will have a new election chairperson after the first of the year. So if you want to wait for that list until after then, I would be so inclined to, say you can certainly do that. But no, we appreciate your input, and always, we're always looking for ways to do things better and to make sure that the voters have accessibility and have a good experience in voting and feel enfranchised, not disenfranchised. So,
Mr. Chairman, should I take that to mean that you will not entertain a request for a special meeting between Christmas and New Year?
well, you never know what might happen, but not if they're complaints, though. No. Thank you. Are there any other citizens to be heard? Any other citizens to be heard? And finally, for the general election 2020, any other citizens to be heard? Okay, hearing none, we'll continue on with the meeting. Next up is an election report from our clerk, Doug Smith. And Doug, I just want to say, as other people have said, and I think we will continue to say, a job very, very well done. And we're certainly proud of you and all of your staff and the work that you continue to do. And the response that you give to all of the citizens of Erie County and the voters of Erie County to make sure that this election process works. So with that being said, please go ahead with your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to be sure to thank all you members of the board for your support throughout the process. You set a tone very early in the year, starting way back in February, and we did some different things, starting with drop boxes, and considered a lot of issues, and I really appreciated the steady leadership from all of you. And I will say you are one of the hardest working election boards I've ever had the privilege to serve, and I appreciate that a lot. You all helped us on election night and after election night, and that meant a great deal to me, and especially when you've got lawyers and watchers and just general, a little more pressure than what the average election might bring. That was all very helpful. And I'm, of course, grateful to all my staff, especially Tanya Fernandez and Jim Chirpak. In the minutes, I've included the names of our other staffers as well as per diem workers who all contributed in a big way this election cycle. Rick Fullerton, who used to be a warehouse manager, this is his 40th year. He's a per diem now, but 40th year of doing election work, and I want to note that for the record. Freda brought up something, and we had some similar type issues, and my probable analysis is it may have been an operator problem in that particular precinct. And that brings me to the beginning of my report, which I believe we need to offer additional training opportunities to our poll workers. I have some more online opportunities, but also some in-person opportunities if this god-awful illness will let us do that. But I believe we still had quite a turnover of poll workers this cycle, and that did lead to, of course, people that were undertrained or certainly not trained to the extent that we would like. So clearly we're going to be working on some of that. We're always looking to improve the books that we provide our judges and polling teams to make their day a little more smooth. There was a lot of change done in these books this cycle. They were improved, but we will continue to make that product something that's user-friendly We did have some supply issues on election day. The provisional ballot phenomenon continues to grow. And unless certain steps are taken by the state, we're going to continue to have large numbers of provisional ballots on election day, either from people who have decided to vote in person, even though they applied for a mail-in ballot, or perhaps other things. I don't know if some of these other remedies are going to end up in the law if someone has a ballot that is disqualified because of a non-electoral problem, like a naked, it being naked without a security envelope. We are going to keep reviewing all the precincts where there were problems. Thank you for the email you sent me today, Mr. Chairman. And we will do likewise with any areas where there were problems. So I look forward kind of to Mr. Wertz's email. But in fact, those things do help us a great deal. And to their credit, Jim and his group have always been constructive in their suggestions and criticisms, and we appreciate that because that's the way we get a little better. We don't always have all the answers. We are going to review our watchers policy again, especially as it pertains to provisional count. I don't know that we'll see the kind of attention that we got again until 2023 as far as provisional ballots go. But if they're going to keep growing the way they are, then in fact we might. So we just want to make sure we have a good set of rules that everyone understands, and whether you're there to challenge ballots or just watch the process, that everybody understands their role, including our own employees. We will be looking at a candidate forum early in the year for the local election. So we'll be going over the basics of being a candidate like we have in other local election years. We're looking at some additional outreach. One thing that probably all of you experienced from people that you spoke with was this is really still a very new election system. There are a lot of people that showed up and were somewhat surprised that they were voting on paper, or we had some people that were very upset that they didn't get a receipt, for instance. So there's still some understanding and education that has to be worked on as far as our voting public goes and the system that we have in Erie County. We had a large number of voided ballots, as many board members know. One issue was naked ballots, those without security envelopes. The other was people signing their name on that security envelope, which is also a disqualifier. So we'll, again, reconsider our instructions to remove anything that might be misinterpreted. I mentioned something about Sharpies and bleed through. We'll probably hit that message again, or depend on the former chairman, it will be next year, to tell the people, because he's got a lot of Sharpie knowledge, I understand. We did have a committee meeting of the CCAP Election Reform Committee last week, and they are going to be, of course, talking to our legislators about increasing the period for pre-canvassing from 7 a.m. on election day to some period before. There was a consensus on the committee to ask the legislature to consider, in fact, changing the deadline for mail-in and absentee voting to coincide with registration. That would be 15 days before, and then filling the gap with an additional emergency ballot period, so that perhaps that would give some common ground for the governor and the legislators, but of course, one never knows. Last issue is the security envelope issue, the secrecy envelope. There again is, I think, an area where legislation needs to be addressed. As I said, I'm very happy with our department's effort, and I'm grateful to our poll workers, over 900 who had a long day and worked very hard. And at this point, I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. First, I would like to recognize Vice Chairwoman Rennie to make comments or questions. I think we might have lost, oh, there she is. And then Vice Chairwoman Rennie, I'd like to recognize you first for comments, and then Chairman of Council, Chairman Horton next, and then other board members who would like to make comments after the two of them. Vice Chairwoman Rennie, any questions or comments for Clerk Smith?
I don't have any questions. I think, Doug, you touched on a lot of the points that I probably might have had questions about, and I'm glad to see that we or other counties in Pennsylvania are pursuing solutions and answers to some of the issues that we saw. You know, I can't say enough about the process. I can't say enough about our own election staff, about you, Doug, about county council staff, Nicole and Jill, who really are in the thick of things at the same time. And of course, Tanya and all of her staff. It was a Herculean effort, and I was so proud of them. There was one point, I think it was when we were down to counting the provisional ballots. And of course, that was a contentious, sometimes contentious time. And I felt as though there were efforts to maybe even rattle our staff. And we could say very definitely that we were proud of the way we were doing our process. And I think that's one thing that I have to give credit to you and Chairman Anderson for saying that we would, and deciding ahead of time that we were not going to be moved or swayed from our normal way of conducting our elections, that we were not going to be rushed. Instead, we were going to focus on quality. And I think, I don't know if we were one of the few counties to do that, but I had the impression that maybe we were, and it left me feeling very confident at the end of that process that we were on very good standing statewide and even nationally. And I really have to salute everyone involved. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairwoman Rennie. And Chairman Horton, if you would like to go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Anderson and Vice Chairman Rennie, and certainly Mr. Smith and Ms. Fernandez, and my colleagues. I salute you. I can't say much that hasn't already been said, if not today, certainly in the days preceding today. I'm godly proud to have been the chairman this year of County Council, and to have the respect of the election board and those who served on it, and the confidence that I was able to just walk away in the spring as I was a candidate myself, and know that we were in good hands. Chairman Anderson was actually, he's in rare territory. He actually was the chairman of the Erie County Election Board last year. And in January, we discussed how big or how Herculean of a task that lied ahead. And we made the decision that he would be the election board chair another year. And I'm not sure that that's happened before. And so, Carl, I thank you for taking on that responsibility. I believe that altogether the ate the elephant, and it would be hard for me. So my mother told me to never call out names in these venues because you might leave out someone, but I can tell you, whatever a staff done, the least of it to the most of it, it was all required. And I'm godly proud again to say that we were first, because you only get an opportunity to be first one time. And we were the first in the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to put out a drop box for the electorate. And we're always looking for ways to invite people into democracy. We have the finest voter registration office in the Commonwealth. Many of them are new. What they make up for, what they lacked in a time on the job and experience, they made up with know-how, positivity, energy, a spirit of cooperation, and teamwork. And so I salute all of you. I look forward to the spring. I believe that we've entered into a new era in that Act 77 ushered in a new way of doing things. And it was compounded in this election by COVID. So in short, what your task was to put on an election that we've just got new rules in Act 77, that we had new machines that not a voter in Erie County had the opportunity to use. We had a delayed election in the primary, and we had people who would look to cast doubt on the very system that we adopted this year in the no-fault mail-in ballot. And you all delivered. And I appreciate it. So thank you all. I look forward to working with you in the future. Get ready for next spring, because if you think you had a ball in this election, where did people start thinking they know what they're doing? Thank you again. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chairman Horton. Other members of the board that would like to have questions or make comments?
Chairman Horton, Chairman Anderson, I have a few comments.
Board Member Shank, please go ahead.
Thank you. I got to tell you, there's not much more I can say, that everything's already been said. Being one of the new four, I mean, it was a real experience and a real eye opener to watch all these gears and wheels move. I've been interviewed several times by some national media, and they were looking for holes in the system. And I was proud to say we kept everybody on track. There was nobody playing with Sharpies in the room when the envelopes were being opened. The envelopes were escorted back to the fishbowl, and several of the news agencies that had reached out and I told them that story, they were actually very impressed that the fact we took that extra step to make sure that there was a set of eyeballs on those ballots at all times when they left the room to go to the fishbowl, to make sure there was no shenanigans going on. So, this was a new experience for all of us. I mean, we had a little bit of a warm up in the primary. We kind of got our feet wet, but then they changed the rules on us a little bit, and we adapted and we overcome. And it was a real eye opener on how this thing really works. And I'm proud to be part of it. And that's basically all I can say is we did it. That's simple. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Shank. Any other members of the board?
Yeah, I'd like to say something, Carl.
Board Member Rastetter, please go ahead.
I'm still busy writing here, but I just want to thank the whole council for all the hard work they put into it, and now that we all have the experience that we've just gone through, we've learned a lot, especially the importance of our position, we work for the people of our districts, independent of the administration. Although in administration would love to be a monarchy, we live in a democracy that believes in representation of all the people. I appreciate each individual member of council for their unique talents, perspectives, along with the work each one put into the election and the budget. And I urge them to remember to keep that individuality. And we are supposed to be separate from the county executive, not an extension of. Signed, Scott Rastetter. Thank you.
Is that board member Scott Rastetter?
Oh, board member, whatever.
Thank you, sir.
Independent, that's for sure.
Independent board member Scott Rastetter. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for that. Any other members of the board wish to be heard?
There's not much more
Board
I
member
can add.
Showerman, yeah, go ahead, please.
There's just not really anything more I can add. Everybody was very impressive, and it just ran very smoothly, and kudos to everybody that had a part in it. Everybody did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
I'm actually going to call on you, board member Clear, since you're the only one that hasn't spoken yet. So please go ahead.
Well, I was there a little after 6 in the morning on election day, and just to see the wheels begin to work and the way in which everything started. It was, I was there and witnessed what happened in the primary, and I was a little frustrated with some things that I thought that was going too slow. And then to see that all of those, all of the things that we needed to happen, I was so impressed. I was so proud of the staff, Tanya, and all of the people that work in the elections office were absolutely amazing. And I think we all need to make sure that everybody realizes the 16-hour days that they were putting in before and after this. That I don't know how you did it, but you did it, and all of us, I think, are so grateful, Tanya and Doug, for all that you guys did to manage everyone to have this come out to be a fair election. So thank you very much.
Thank you, board member Clear. I'm going to take a few minutes to make some comments, and I would say that I actually was up at close to 6 a.m., which was a miracle by all stretches. And I was going to make it to the courthouse by 7. And then I ended up having to take on a task, which I don't even remember what we were dealing with at the time, but it took me over an hour to work it out and contact board members to take that pressure off of Mr. Smith. So I did not make it there by 7, but I tried. Anyway, I have to say that, and Mr. Smith alluded to this, that, I've been an observer of county government for a number of years, and worked on other campaigns and been involved in the courthouse during election time. And I've been on the board now for a couple years. And I have to say that never in the history of council have so many members of council who make up the board stepped forward and participated. And this year was 100% participation with everybody who went in above and beyond in any possible duties that are outlined or assigned in being elected a member of county council. And I only equate that to the commitment and dedication and belief in our community that all of you have. So as your colleague, as the chairman this year, looking at you as board members with me, I thank all of you for all of the work, because all of us working together really makes this whole process work. And so hats off to the board of elections for Erie County. And Mr. Smith, of course, I've said many times, hats off to you and the work that you've done. You are a gentleman, you are a professional, you are fair, you are knowledgeable, you are experienced. You're getting a little older each election cycle, and you're losing a little more hair, but you're the guy that brings all of this together and makes it happen. With Jim from the warehouse and other members of the administration who have helped out and participated to the issues that we've had to deal with this year, working with the sheriff and all of the safety concerns that we had that I must say ended up that we had none. And as I said to others, I'm so glad that we were prepared, but had to do nothing about it because rather than the other way around, and to not be prepared and then have some real issues affect the safety of the people who came out to vote and entrust that safety with us. So I applaud everybody for that, that you worked with Mr. Smith and of course, Nicole and Jill in the council office. And then certainly without question, our voter registration supervisor, Tanya Fernandez, and her entire staff. You are just phenomenal, dedicated, committed, have strength and endurance. I mean, you guys were there through thick and thin, day in and day out, through pressure and stress and questions and people looking over your shoulder. And particularly Tanya, I have to say, and never once did your smile leave your face. And it certainly was noticed by all the members of the board and by everyone in the community, the professionalism and the experience and the poise that you exhibited during this entire process. And we thank you for that. We knew that we made an excellent choice when the job came open last year and we chose you. And you have done the best thing that you could ever do for us. You have proven us right. And we just appreciate everything that you guys are doing. You know, it was a historic election year. I'm not going to say much more because I've said a lot in the past 2 weeks. And so, you know, not much more needs to be said, except we have come to a time where under the Pennsylvania Election Code, we have 20 days after the election to certify the results of the election and get those into the state. The process that we use, that we stick with, has worked, has the confidence of the people in our community, knowing that the outcome of the election is fair and accurate. We have worked in a bipartisan fashion in everything that we've done. And this election year, although stressful and pressure filled at many times, it was exciting and it was without question historic. And so without any further ado, we do have some actions on the agenda. And I would like—
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Horton.
I move that we certify the results from the 2020 Erie County general election.
Thank you. With that motion, Mr. Clerk, could you go ahead and begin the certification for us so we can have a second to that motion and then vote?
So the initial signing of the board occurred after the results were posted last Friday. Today will be the official certification once you vote. Results going into the Department of State for their eventual publication and state certification. The board, or rather the state Department of State, did send to us a certification that there would not be a recount. So at this point, there is no recount lingering. So beyond that, there are some numbers in your packets for those of you who have them. But we will be certifying or rather circulating those final results to all board members to review. And at this point, Mr. Chairman, you certainly could second this motion, or a board member could.
Yes, thank you. With the motion on the table from Board Member Horton, Vice Chair.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Board Member Showerman. Okay, any other comments or questions? With none out there, there's something on the chat. Let me just double check. Nope, no questions for us on this item. With that being said, Mr. Clerk, could you have a roll call vote, please?
Extreme gratitude. Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Schenk,
Yes.
Chairman Anderson.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you, Mr. Clerk, for that. Okay, are there any other items today that wish to come before the board? Anybody else with any other items to come before the board?
I do have a question.
Mr. Schenk, please.
Thank you. I was contacted by a resident in my district, and he had kind of a technical question that I didn't really know how to answer. So I figured I would bring it to my colleagues and have that kicked around the room to come up with an answer. He had a mail-in ballot. He had it spoiled at the voters at the poll, and he wants to know where that spoiled physical ballot is.
Mr. Smith, would you like Tanya to answer that, or do you want to go ahead and answer it?
I think Tanya should answer that.
Tanya, go ahead.
Okay. I really wanted to answer this anyways. So we've had a few concerned voters ask the same thing. So those remitted ballots actually go to the warehouse in a sealed bag, and they're not opened unless we have a court order to open those bags. So they never come into the courthouse.
Gotcha. See, that was simple. Thank you.
We have very competent people who work here.
Yeah, we knew Tanya would have the answer. That's why we had her answer it.
Well, being one of the new guys, I don't have a problem asking a question, and I have the whole gang together at once. I think it was a great opportunity to clear that up. Thank you.
Being one of the old guys, I don't have a problem asking the question.
No, I agree. Thank you.
She was like Arnold Horshack.
I saw that.
I want to answer that.
I don't know how she has any energy left. Bless her heart.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Be safe,
everyone, and thank you, everyone, for your prayers and your concern.
Am I able to just say something real quick?
Tanya, please go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to say that this year has been very, very challenging on all of us. I mean, we've had new staff, we've had new machines, and everything that you guys have mentioned. But, you know, sorry, I had a call.
That's okay.
But the board hasn't hesitated to give us what we've needed, you know, and I thank you guys for that, because a lot of what we needed, we didn't see it coming until we needed it, right? Like getting the mail house. Like I can remember in the primary when we were up to 16,000 ballot applications, and I had never seen anything like that. And I didn't know how we were going to get through that. And you know, you guys just hired on this mail house, this printer, and like it saw us through that. And like it was really just, I mean, you guys, you gave us what we need, and that's really how we did this. So thank you guys.
Thank you for that. There's no question. It was a joint effort of everybody involved, and I would have to say we thought outside of the box. We thought progressively, and we thought forward, and I think that that served us well throughout the election. Just while everybody's on the board, I will take 1 minute to explain to everybody how the election board works and our process. Next year, there will be 3 members of council, presumably, who will be on the ballot. Those members will not take their seat on their board, I should say their voting seat. And so there will be four members during the primary, at least, who serve on the election board. During the primary election of next year, the members on the board will be responsible for setting the salaries of the even numbered council members and the row offices that are up for election next year for the following election term, as we did 2 years ago for the terms that the 4 of you are in. And so you will reorganize in January, and that will be one of your first duties, to have a committee that will begin to work on that. And send a voted recommendation from the board then to council for final approval. So there will be work to do immediately after the first of the year, as there always is. And so I wish you the best for next year. Vice Chairwoman this year, Rennie, her and I have worked very close together. We've worked in tandem on all issues that have come up. And I believe she will be, as a new member of council, will be ready and will serve the election board well in her presumed role next year as chairperson. So I will, wish her well after today and then after the beginning of the year. But unless there's a need for us to have some type of special election board meeting between now and the end of the year, this will be our final election board meeting. And I, again, want to thank all of the staff for the work that you've done. Jim in the warehouse, the unsung hero that really takes care of everything, all the machines, all the records, to ensure that they are there if they're called out by the courts or by law, how we have to have them stored, and all of the equipment to make sure it works when we need it. So there's so much that goes into the election process behind the scenes that many people don't understand. But we on the election board do understand and appreciate all the work that all of you do. So with that said, if there's nothing else to be brought before the board, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So move. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Gobble, gobble.
Thank you, Chairman Horton. And thank you, everyone. Election board meeting is adjourned.
Check out.
Great job, Carl.
All right. Does anyone need anything before I sign everyone off? All right. Have a good one.
Yeah, if you want to